Here's why you should learn piano first. I recommend that every person who desires to learn to play music should start by learning the piano. When I was in college, every music major was required to study the piano. Now, it's not necessary for you to become a piano virtuoso, just like it wasn't necessary for my fellow college students who were music majors. But there are many advantages to starting your music education by learning your way around the keyboard. First of all, it's easier to get started on the piano. Well, by the way, when I say piano, I also mean keyboard. The two terms are interchangeable these days. So when I say piano, which is what I'm always going to say because that's how I started out, I'm an old piano player. And after all, now I'm sitting in front of a keyboard. So when I say piano, I mean keyboard too. And sadly, there's no room in my house for my grand piano, so that's why I've got a keyboard. But getting back to the ease of producing a beautiful sound on the piano, almost immediately you can do this. All you have to do, for example, is find middle C, and then you can add E and G, and there you are. You're instantly playing a beautiful C major chord, provided that the piano's in tune. Of course, if you're using a modern keyboard like this, that's not a problem. And you can learn to play dozens of chords in a very short amount of time, even before you know how to read music. An earlier video of mine, probably the most popular one I've ever released, shows you how to play 36 chords in a matter of minutes. And many of the basic chords are of equal difficulty as far as how hard they are to play. So for example, a D major chord on the guitar is easier to play than an F major chord. And beginning guitarists may have trouble changing from one chord to another, whereas on the keyboard it can be relatively easy when the proper fingering is used. Basic music theory is all laid out for you on the keyboard. It's visual. It's a simple matter now to find the major chords, and then the minor chords, and then the seventh chords, and so on. And it's also very easy to find major and minor scales, as well as modes, the blues scale, the diminished scale, the pentatonic scale, and so on. Also learning how to transpose, playing a song in a different key, or modulating, changing from one key to another. That's also easier on the keyboard. It's all part of music theory, which is laid out for you on the keyboard. You know, many of the world's greatest songwriters played the piano. Some of them played very well, like George Gershwin, Elton John, Billy Joel, Carole King. All four of the Beatles played the piano to varying degrees. It's generally agreed that Paul McCartney was the most proficient pianist, but all four Beatles have recorded keyboard parts in their career. Now that would be an interesting study for another video. My wife and I recently watched on YouTube a 1970 concert by singer-songwriter Joni Mitchell. She began her set by playing the guitar in her unique style, but then she switched over to the piano and performed a few songs accompanying herself on that instrument. And I'd be willing to bet that she may have played the piano before she played the guitar. I don't know if I'll ever get a chance to meet her and ask her someday, but that would be an interesting question. Anyway, it's not necessary for you to become a pianist first and foremost, but I strongly encourage anyone who's interested in playing music to start by at least learning the basics of the piano. So if you want to move on to another instrument, well, where can you go? Well, I have a suggestion that might sound a little strange, but I suggest that you try the ukulele. Here's my wife's ukulele. And it's a relatively easy instrument to play. It's a good starting point for learning stringed instruments. Now, a lot of folks think of ukuleles only in terms of Hawaiian music, but if you want to see what ukuleles are actually capable of, check out videos by the Ukulele Orchestra of Great Britain. You'd be amazed what they can do as a group of ukulele players. So I'll leave links below. The guitar, of course, is also very popular for beginning musicians. And guitars for beginners, they're relatively inexpensive. Of course, you could spend quite a bit more on guitars, but maybe not as much as you would on a grand piano. I'm not sure. But one of the main attractions of the guitar and of course of the ukulele is that they are easy to transport. You know, as a piano player, I've always envied guitarists. In the early days of my career as a professional musician, before there were great keyboards like this, I often had to play whatever piano was provided for me, and they could be of wildly varying quality. A guitarist gets to perform on their own instrument, the same instrument, no matter where they go. And so that's definitely an advantage. And you can play just about any style of music you want on the guitar, especially if you have both an acoustic guitar and an electric guitar. Now, I can't tell you much more about playing guitar because I'm not a guitarist. However, my wife, Cheryl, is, and I plan to bring her on the channel to show you some basics of the guitar, so stay tuned for that. But going back to my original assertion, let me put this down. No matter what instrument you are interested in playing, and I've only covered 3 here, I would encourage you to start with the piano. By studying the piano, as I've mentioned, you'll learn the basics of music theory, how music works, and that will benefit you as a musician. Maybe you want to write songs, that will benefit you in that regard as a performer. And no matter what instrument you decide to take up after that, I would encourage you to start with piano. Now, I haven't even touched upon all the other instruments that are available, violins and horns and so forth. The reason I started with these 3, the piano, the ukulele, the guitar, is that with these instruments, you can play as a soloist or you can accompany other musicians, primarily singers. I mean, there are guitar players who accompany themselves and then they sing. But anyway, this is a good way to get started working with other musicians. And I believe that that's just as beneficial to you as studying by yourself with a teacher and playing music by yourself. So let me hear from you. What instrument are you interested in learning after you spend some time learning your way around the keyboard? And you may find that after starting with the keyboard, you decide to stay with it. That would be great. Or you may decide to move on and learn the guitar, the ukulele, the accordion, the trumpet, whatever. Or you may decide to learn how to play both guitar and piano. And there are certainly a lot of famous musicians who have done both. So I would encourage you, though, to start with piano, because I believe that will give you a good and firm foundation for your musical journey. If you have any questions, any comments, please leave those in the comment section below. I answer every comment. Also, you can contact me through my website. If you'd like to support my work, you can go to my Patreon page, and I will leave those links below as well. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you in the next one.